Good morning, everybody. It's Paul Harrison here on Wednesday morning. I hope you're all exceedingly well. I am absolutely battered right now. I've got some of this flu representing the whole weekend in Germany, and it was very cold, and I guess your body gets run down after 21, 22 hours of giving everything you have on stage. A little bit later than what I would have liked, but yeah, there we go. I'm not going to complain about it too much. So, firstly, well done to everybody who submitted stocks. It's so good to see, particularly people who are relatively new to having joined us, who are really taking the bull by the horns. That's how you become successful with this, folks. You take the bull by the horns and you do what you got to do. So the first stock we've got is Yoku Tudor, which is YOKU. Again, some good, decent support, even better resistance. Come up to the resistance line there. Probably not as small an entry point as I would have liked. Those are two pretty big days in comparison to this one here. I would much rather have had this up at the resistance line, because obviously that's going to have an impact on your entry point as well. So you see, this is really what I aim to do. I don't just, follow the rules, but it's also improving the little things that you can do there as well. So then we have VSH, beautiful downward trending resistance line. Maybe a day late, but it would have been 1% below there to get into the trade. Your stop loss would have been there. Maybe still there, possibly still there, but fundamentally no problems with that trade. Then we had Hearn, again a downward trending stock, a little bit scrappy. It's a bit of a scrappy stock. It can move quite aggressively, so be aware of that. Be aware also, though, that this has put in pretty much a perfect entry point here. It's put in a down day, a little bit of a hanging man. I would prefer to have seen the close a little bit lower, but nice little technical setup there. Whether you get the ratios or not, that's a different conversation. Then we had RO, which is ARO, and a slight downward trending resistance line here. Yeah, maybe not quite the ratios you'd be looking for, but yeah, still, I guess, following the rules to some degree. Again, you see, when you get to this level, folks, at the level that you're at the moment, it's not just about taking a stock because it follows the rules, but you're actually looking really to improve take the best possible trades that are out there. We have a downward trending resistance line here, bounce, bounce, bounce. Probably not something I would trade right now. I'd want it to come up to that resistance line a little bit more before I was to trade it. Then we have ACT. ACT, I think this might be a new flotation. There wasn't enough data on it for me, so I wasn't going to consider taking that trade. Then we had Bidu, Bravo, Indigo, Delta, Umbrella. Again, a lovely downward trending resistance line. The lows are getting lower, which is a good thing to see. 109.90. I mean, that's about a 20% move. Should have come back down to the support line. But again, a very big day here, and I'd rather see it on a smaller daily bar. Should it actually come up and just put a little doji in, say around about there, then I would be interested. But again, that entry point just looks a little bit too big for me. Then we have Fire, and a good level of support on the 41.80 mark. This day yesterday was a big sell-off, and I don't like that because it's come down to that support line. It has pulled up a little bit, but again, your entry point's going to be massive. Now, should have put in a tiny little doji, say if we put that in here and formed a new low, that'd be a different conversation. But there's still a fair amount of momentum behind this actual stock on the way down there. Then we have NAV. NAV resistance line at 26.43-ish. Pretty decent area of resistance. You're looking at almost a 30% difference between support and resistance there. So if you get your entry point right, and that's not a terrible entry point, then it might not be such a bad situation for you. Then we have Upper, which is Apache, APA. I think this was one that was discussed on the call. Again, downward trending resistance line, bounce, 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 so it follows the rules. However, having a look at what it did yesterday, you see on yesterday was Tuesday, on Monday, it put in sort of a hanging man. Now, this is a classic example of why you use a stop order on downward trending resistance line. It's come slightly up here, so I would be very wary of that. It still follows the rules at the moment, but what that stock is saying to me is it had a very big up day yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised to see it continue going north and actually break that resistance line today. Then we have AEM, which is a nice upward trending support line. This is almost a perfect entry point here. If you had seen this yesterday, This is a little doji it's put in, a little area of not sure exactly where it's going to go. It looks like a slightly up day there, so that pretty much would have been textbook as an entry point, but it may well have broken that already. We have CHS. Again, upward trending support line. Be aware there is some downward trending resistance here as well. The longer term trend is up. So, yep, we've got basically what could be a bit of a hammer. Maybe it's a little bit of a big hammer, but a hammer nonetheless as far as the entry point goes. Then we have NOC, November Oscar Charlie. Again, an upward trending support line. What are we looking at here? Again, a nice little entry point. You would have to work out your calculations though as well. Be aware as well, folks, with these upward trending stocks, sometimes you can get this resistance like this kind of internal resistance. Now the thing is, what you're generally going to find is this stock will come up, hit that resistance and come back down again, but it won't necessarily hit your stop loss because a general upward trend is up. Well, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense, but you know what I mean. So a lot of the time these stocks will go up and then come back down and go up and come back down again, but over the longer term, obviously, they are rallying. Okay? So just to be aware of that. Let's see. Then we had SLM. Again, a lovely upward trending stock. Doesn't fill me with joy, this kind of entry point. If I had this entry point, or maybe this one, down here today, then I'd be a lot more excited. But that entry point is just not right for me right now. CRK. Upward trending support line, bounce, bounce, bounce. It looks like it's already hit that support line and maybe taken off yesterday. So I'm sure a few of you did see that yesterday. ATVI. Nice downward trending resistance line. Notice how, again, the stock does move quite significantly, particularly on the way down. You see how quickly it's moved down from the resistance line previously. And again, the only thing we know about a stock is what it's done in the past. Okay, so having a look a little bit closer, we'd probably take that as the entry point. So should you get a break below the low there, potentially that could be a trade as long as your ratios are looking good as well. ATVI. Then we have AMX. Again, a downward trending resistance line. Some support around about the $22 mark. So expect there to be some kind of interaction when you get down to this $22 mark. But again, it's not giving me a perfect entry point to get in there. That probably would have been my perfect entry point right about there. I like that kind of thing there, even though this probably would have had to come into my consideration as far as a stop loss, because it hasn't broken far enough away from that resistance line in order to be something else. Then we have HST, Hotel Sierra Tango. Again, lovely resistance, really, really nice uniform resistance. It did spike a little bit here, so you're going to have to use that as your stop loss. But it's put in a doji and then a slightly down day yesterday as well. So yeah, it hasn't actually broken through if you're going to use a resistance line there. If you're going to use a stop order there. Clear zoom. Pretty decent ratio there. You've got some internal support around about the $15 mark. But again, so much of this trading is going to have to be about your ratios and getting your ratios right. HST. Then we have FCS. FCS, again, a nice area of resistance, but it seems to have broken through already. You see, the strategy works, folks, you know. It's just you've got to get the timing right, you know. But that's got a pretty decent range on it as well. OXY. Downward trending resistance line. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Again, entry point is crucial. That would probably be a bit of a big day. If I could have this kind of bar here, then this next day, then I would be a little bit more excited than what I'm seeing right now. It's going to be interesting what the markets are doing at the moment, because obviously they're hitting some resistance on the overall view. So whether we're going to get a sell-off or what have you remains to be seen. But it's going to be interesting, I'll tell you that much. Then we have a lovely area of resistance here as well. We're going to have the stop loss around about here. There was a down day on Monday, and then a slightly up day again yesterday, but still some reasonable. The last 3 days have been reasonably undecided. You're getting sort of the wick on both sides there, and a pretty decent ratio as well, if memory serves. Zoom. Okay. TXT. Then we have tap, Tango Alpha Papa, and some resistance around about the $45 mark. It hasn't quite hit there yet. You might want to set an alert or maybe even a limit order as it's coming up to the fourth bounce there. But it looks like, yeah, you probably have a pretty decent ratio there as well. Tap PSB. Come up to the resistance line 71. We've got a support line, an external support line at around about the $63 mark. But again, it's just not giving me that nice little entry point. That's a nice little entry point, or ideally a red one. If you had a red one there, because a red one shows you it's a slightly downward resistance, which is, well, a slightly downward close, which is what we would expect on a stock that's about to sell off. PSB. Then we have OMI. Again, some great resistance, folks. We've got no reason to say we can't find trades here. Having a look at this though, I would probably move my resistance up a little bit higher. Funnily enough, this was one we actually placed this weekend, but I would probably even move my resistance up maybe a little bit higher, maybe bring it down to hit there. So I'd want it to come up a little bit higher before I actually got into the trade, and that wouldn't be a bad ratio if you worked it out correctly there. Then we had UPL. Some decent support around about the 1750 mark. What else to say about this? Some internal resistance around about the $20 mark. But then, you know, it's up to $24. That's a great ratio. Should have come up right up to the top there. So that's the sort of the market overview for what I have for you this week, or this Wednesday. I hope that's helped. Again, ladies and gentlemen, particularly people who've been trading with us for less than 4 months, I really, really, really am impressed with the effort you're putting in, the work you're putting in, and you know, as with anything, it's a law of life. If you put in the effort, you'll get the results as well. So keep doing what you're doing. Really proud of you. Hope these videos help you as well. And you know, it's just keeping trading on front of consciousness the whole time. It really is. It's what you have, that little reminder that your trading is becoming part of your life. As soon as it becomes part of your life, you'll be successful with it. But it's the reason why so many people battle to master trading is because you've got to master yourself first. And there's so many other challenges that come into life as well. So there we go. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope that helps, and I will speak to you again on Friday morning. All the very best. Cheers. Bye-bye.